in transition countries. First 18 months of establishing the PFMA, it provided training to 145 officials from 45 African countries, out of which 51 persons from 26 countries graduated and were certified as public financial management experts in 2023.
Ladies and gentlemen, you will agree with me that although there have been positive strides in debt management on the continent, debt challenge and vulnerability still persists, especially among our countries in transition, face a multiple of political, economic, security, and environmental challenges.
Thank you very much. So we're going to the next item on the agenda. We are inviting the task team lead for this project, Mr. Chidebere Ibe, who will be making a presentation on strengthening the capacity of transition states for effective management and mitigation of debt distress risks. Mr. Chidebere, please, you're welcome and you have the floor. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this event. I'm happy that all of us managed to come in spite of the difficulties and challenges. Thank you for coming. So my presentation is just to let us have an appreciation of this project, the project under which we are having this event, and the support that we have for different countries. Like I've been introduced, my name is Chidebere Ibe. I work for the African Development Institute. Okay, so this project, which is titled Capacity Development for Effective Management and Mitigation of Debt Distress Risks in Africa, was approved by the board of the bank on April 13, 2023. It is a project funded under the Transition Support Facility Pillar 3 window. We listened to the director of the Transition States Department, earlier on, who joined us virtually. The budget of this project is about 2 million UA, or about 2.5 million US dollars. It's a small project, but with a lot of impact. It covers about 22 countries in Africa. At the time the project was approved in 2023, we had 22 transition states, but now we have about 24. So the rest two are not covered in this project. And it's supposed to be implemented over 3 years, from April 2023 to March 2026. One feature of this project is that it is bank implemented. What that means is that we don't have a firm or a contractor who is implementing the project. So the African Development Institute is the one implementing the project internally in the bank. And the advantage of this is that it is saving the bank a lot of money, saving the project a lot of money. So the money would have paid to private firms to implement the project. We are doing it by ourselves, and that's why we're able to do much more with so little. Let me just recap the countries that are covered under this project. We have Burkina Faso, Burundi, Central African Republic, Chad, Comoros, Democratic Republic of Congo, Djibouti, Eritrea, the Gambia, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Madagascar, Mali, Mozambique, Niger, Sierra Leone, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan, Togo, and Zimbabwe. These are the 22 countries, and I believe almost all of the countries are represented in today's program. What are the objectives of this project? The overall goal of this project is to enhance the capacities of transition states to manage their public debt more effectively and transparently for improved macroeconomic stability, which can support economic growth. Specifically, the objectives include to strengthen capacity for prudent, transparent, and sustainable debt management in the transition countries, and to enhance capacity for managing arrears, which is very key, and finally, to enhance the country's ability to raise sustainable debt to finance more productive investments to build back resiliency and stability in their countries. The project has 4 components. The first component is diagnostic assessments. This was undertaken in the first year of the project, and the number of countries were covered at that stage of the project. I'll come to that later in the presentation. The second component is technical assistance, which is including training, embedded advisory, and provision of tools. The third component is policy dialogue. The event we are having today till the next 4 days includes the technical assistance training as well as policy dialogue. The first day of this event is policy dialogue. From second day to the final day, we are going to be doing intensive training. Then the last component of the project is project management, which relates to administrative issues, reporting, auditing, and so on and so forth. What is the delivery approach? How is the project being delivered? First, we have targeted country-specific activities. Some countries have requested for us to support them in a specific area or specific areas, and we go into those countries and provide those support. I'll come to that later. We also have regional or group activities where we aggregate a number of countries in a particular region or countries that have similar issues or problems or capacity needs. We aggregate them and have a program for them or an activity for them. Then we also have whole of beneficiaries activities like the one we are doing here, where we have all the whole 22 countries gathered together to benefit in a particular activity. And the mode of delivery include physical, like we are doing, hybrid, this one is also hybrid, or wholly virtual. So these are the ways we deliver the project. What are the expected outputs of this project? One is to have prioritized public debt management capacity needs of the transition states in debt distress, at high risk of debt distress, or moderate risk of debt distress. These were identified at the diagnostic stage of this project. And as we go along implementation, we keep identifying more and more needs and prioritizing and also providing support to our countries. The second one is to have an enhanced knowledge of public debt management and the public finance management officials in transition states. The third one is to have laws, regulations, and resource materials on public debt management which are provided to public debt management agencies in the transition states. Fourth is to have more informed policymakers on public debt management in transition states. And finally, is to have knowledge products on public debt management which are disseminated to transition states. The expected outcomes of this project include to have an enhanced capacity for the design and implementation of institutional frameworks for public debt management, to have enhanced capacity for formulation and effective implementation of debt policy and medium-term debt management strategies, to have enhanced capacity for recording, monitoring, and reporting of debt statistics, to have enhanced capacity for mobilizing innovative debt financing for productivity, and finally, to have an enhanced capacity for greater resilience of the transition states to fiscal risks. I want to quickly take you through what we have done so far on this project since its inception. Like I said earlier, we started off with diagnostic assessments in selected number of countries, including the Gambia, the Comoros, Central African Republic, Djibouti, Togo, and South Sudan. Because we couldn't go to all the 22 countries, we had to identify countries that represent the entire population to be able to have this diagnostic assessment. That enabled us to identify which areas we are going to be providing support to. We have also undertaken country-specific technical assistance on capacity development in debt management and public financial management in a number of countries, including the Gambia, the Comoros, South Sudan, Togo. Togo is going to be done next week. And we have in the pipeline Liberia, Sierra Leone, Central African Republic, and Somalia for this year. I'll be getting in touch with these countries. I've started engagement with some of them already. So I'll be coming back to you for us to finalize on the modalities for the technical assistance. We have also undertaken Macroeconomic Management Academy training on macro modeling in Central African Republic and Zimbabwe. And we had the inaugural PFMA spotlight on public debt management in transition states, which was focused on emerging public debt management capacity challenges in Africa's transition states. This was held in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, between June 11 and 12, 2024. We are having the second edition today and in the next 4 days. So the second edition of the PFMA Spotlight series on strengthening capacity for loan negotiation and debt restructuring in Africa's transition states is the one we are holding currently. We also had the Africa Debt Managers Initiative Network learning event, which was a knowledge sharing and training focused on developing and deepening of the domestic debt markets in Africa. This was held back-to-back with the PFMA Spotlight event in Addis Ababa in June. The essence was that debt managers from transition countries can also attend that admin program. And that admin is for all the countries in Africa. So it was held back-to-back last year. We also held the Debt Management Forum for Africa, the inaugural policy dialogue on making debt work for Africa, policies, practices, and options. This was held in Abuja, Nigeria, on 16th to 17th of December 2024. The Debt Management Forum for Africa is a platform for ministers of finance and central bank governors to engage at policy level on how to resolve the debt challenge we face in the continent, and as well as the capacity development issues and also to engage in cross-learning and peer-to-peer exchanges on issues of debt management and public financial management in Africa. And we sponsored transition states to attend that event in Abuja last year. We also sponsored participants from the transition states to attend the African Public Finance Conference 2024, which was based on emerging issues on public financial management and domestic revenue mobilization in Africa, and as well as the PIFA flagship training, which was held in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, in November 2024. This program, we jointly implemented this program with the PIFA Secretariat and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. It was held in Ethiopia last year. A number of you participated in that event. We also co-organized the high-level regional dialogue on public finance systems in Africa with the United Nations Development Program and the government of Benin Republic. This was held on the 25th and 26th March this year. And the theme of that dialogue event was modernizing accountability and transparency in public finance systems in Africa. A number of our members here also were participants at that event. We jointly, with the African Union, organized the African Union Conference on Debt, which was focused on Africa's public debt management agenda in restoring and safeguarding debt sustainability. This was held in Lomé, Togo, in May 12 to 14, 2025. And a number of you were sponsored to participate in that program. And of course, many of you would have participated in the first cohort or participating in the second cohort of the Public Finance Management Academy's public tip training, which we run every 18 months. Like had been said during the opening remarks and welcoming remarks, the first cohort of this training program graduated in December 2023, and we started the second cohort in June 2024, of which we have over 500 participants from 49 countries participating, and I know a number of you are also benefiting from that program. So what are the lessons that we have learned so far in implementing the program? First is that there's a challenge in implementing internally bank implemented projects like our own. The usual way projects are managed is for a firm to be procured to manage the program, and it's easy. But this time around, managing it internally meant that we have to co-fund the project. So we have to use our administrative budget to also complement the project budget to be able to implement it. So it puts pressure also on our administrative budget within the department. But the benefit is huge because it saves a lot of costs, and we're able to do more with less. Another lesson is engaging with some of the countries. Sometimes we have hard times engaging with countries, getting their confirmation to provide support to them, and also getting countries to make nominations on time for programs. Like some of you will know, even this one we are having, some didn't get their nomination until the last minute. And it puts a lot of pressure on us to make sure that everybody's taken care of. Some people's nomination came just less than 1 week before this event. So we had to also work around the clock to make sure that people are accommodated. So we would wish that countries are more proactive and also cooperative when we approach them for activities. Finally, we've observed that there's quite a large room for scaling up capacity development on public finance management and public debt management in transition states. A number of countries are coming forward to us to support them. And from what we have done also, we see a lot of room for improvement. So we are taking note of that and seeking ways to make sure that we scale up what we are doing. Okay, so going forward, we have planned targeted technical assistance support to countries that have demanded support. A number of the countries that I mentioned earlier that we provided technical assistance to, we are on demand. So if you need support, please come forward and let us know officially so that we can take it into consideration in our planning. Also, we want to take forward the outcomes of this dialogue and learning event, including identifying new requests that may come out of this. By the time we finish this event, there may be follow-up activities that we might have to undertake to further the capacity development in this particular area. Also, we are looking at group training activities for countries in debt distress, at high risk of debt distress, and moderate risk of debt distress. Putting these countries together and having an event for them, targeted event for this group of countries. We have done one before, the PIFA conference that we did last year. We selected countries that were at high risk of debt distress and that were at debt distress for that conference because they were more in need. We're also looking at collaboration with other bank departments and international development partners and multilateral development banks for joint activities and shared resources for our transition states. Already that's happening and we want to intensify that. Indeed, the work we do in the African Development Institute and Public Finance Management Academy is based on partnerships. We have over 20 institutions, both regional institutions and international institutions that we collaborate with. LSF is here partnering with us on this one, which is their core area of competence. Thank you, Olivier. And we are planning massive open online courses on public finance management and macroeconomic policy management from next year. The TSF staff and officials can take advantage of this self-paced learning. We are rolling out MOOCs because we know that we can't reach everybody at the same time. Some people don't have time to attend events, so they will rather learn at their own pace. So the MOOCs will help people wherever they are. They can learn at their own paces. If they complete the programs, they get certified like any other person who has attended the structured training. In summary, despite the limited budget for the project, we are ensuring that we provide impactful and catalytic interventions to improve debt management in the beneficiary countries. I have to say that I'm quite proud of what we have done so far in this project. In spite of a very small budget, some of you have projects that are over 5 million, 10 million, 20 million or so for one country. But we are using just 2 million UA to do a lot for almost 22 countries. So I'm quite proud of that. And I want to thank my colleagues who are supporting on this project. Also, the management and staff of the bank are committed to the improvement of governance, public finance, and debt management capacity in transition state. This goes without saying. That's what we are here for, and that is what we are committed to be doing. So countries with specific capacity development needs are welcome to make their requests, and we will do our best to support them as far as our resources can allow. And also, like I said earlier, we have huge untapped potentials that lie within the transition states, and together we can harness these potentials for Africa's development and greatness. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a successful learning event. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The moment to rewrite its story or continue down a road fraught with uncertainty. The continent's most influential leaders say no, and that it's time for radical change.
The challenges are known. The solutions are also known. So we are not setting up a debt management forum for Africa to discuss Africa's debt distress. We are setting up a debt management forum for Africa to discuss how to make debt work for growth in Africa.
Enter DEMFA, the Debt Management Forum for Africa, a groundbreaking initiative by the African Development Bank launched in December of 2024 together with Africa's finance ministers, central bankers, debt managers, policymakers, experts, and key partners from across the continent. DEMFA is not just an annual Pan-African Debt Management Forum. It is a movement, a platform for collaboration, innovation, strategy, and transformation. Here, ideas converge, lessons are exchanged, and solutions are shaped, all with one goal: tackling Africa's debt crisis head-on and ensuring fiscal sustainability with focus on making Africa's debt work better for Africa.
What we're doing through this forum is to raise the voice of Africa high, have a consensus, and be able to this inaugural peer learning session of the African Debt Managers Initiative under the theme Developing and Deepening the Domestic Debt Market in Africa open.
The rapid growth of the private sector on a sustainable basis is part and parcel of what will make your debt sustainable.
The goal of the admin is to bring together debt managers on the continent to provide tailored and homegrown solution to the debt challenges facing the continent.
Africa is at a crossroads. On the right lies a path of immense opportunities for growth and transformation, where bold, radical measures are taken to tackle the rising debt crisis. It's a path where decisive action ignites innovation, creates jobs, and builds a future of prosperity and inclusivity. But on the left lies the status quo. A road paved with inaction, a place where public expenditures continue to soar, domestic revenues dwindle, reliance on foreign aid and assistance increases, and debts spiral even higher. A place where declining credit rate...
In the room, did you hear me? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Excellent. Good morning, everyone. Good to have you all here. I want to start by appreciating the Deputy Honorable Minister who is currently here with us this morning. Thank you very much. And also Honorable Sektekwe, the Special Advisor to the President on Economic Matters. Thank you also. And I know we have very eminent people here present this morning, so I'm not going to start mentioning names, but we really appreciate your being here. I know many of us came from far and near to arrive here. Hope you had very pleasant travel here. And I also hope you've been enjoying the very excellent hospitality that Accra, Ghana as a whole offer. Have you? I can't hear you. Okay. Because the Honorable Minister confirms that. And so we need to be sure you're really enjoying all the provisions that are made available for you. So once again, the purpose of our gathering this week is to focus on the second edition of the Publiques. So please, you permit me now to invite the country manager for Ghana to represent him in making the welcoming remarks. But we have someone who will be representing him today, and that's the person of Olam Bekale. Olam Bekale is the principal country program manager or officer for Ghana, and he is from the African Development Bank. So shall we please welcome Mr. Bekale Olam as he comes up here to give us the welcoming remarks.
Good morning. As said, I will be presenting the speech of Professor Kevin Urama, Chief Economist and Vice President, Economic Governance and Knowledge Management Complex for the African Development Bank. And I will do that on behalf of the Miss Jerusalem, who is the country manager of AFDB country office here in Ghana. Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister Thomas Nyako Ampem, Deputy Minister of Finance, Ghana, officials of the Ministry of Finance, representatives of regional member countries, members of parliament and diplomatic corps, faculty members of the Public Finance Management Academy for Africa, PFMA, Policy Lab unit, and African Development Bank colleagues, Ghana Country Office colleagues, distinguished participants, representatives of the media, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to welcome you all to this second edition of the PFMA Spotlight on Public Debt Management in Transition States under the theme Strengthening Capacity for Loan Negotiation and Debt Restructuring in Africa's Transition State. The first edition of this initiative was held in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, in June 2024, with a focus on emerging public debt management capacity development challenges in Africa's transition state. This is part of the implementation of the project, strengthening the capacity of transition state for effective management and mitigation of debt distress risk being implemented for 22 transition states in Africa under the bank's transition support facility. The African Development Institute designed this project to support capacity development on debt management, transparency, and sustainability in our transition state, especially as many of them are either in debt distress, at a high risk of debt distress, or at moderate risk of debt distress. Before I continue, please permit me to thank our host, the Minister of Finance, Ghana, His Excellency Dr. Cassiel Forson, who is ably represented by Honorable Thomas Nyako Ampem, Deputy Minister of Finance, Ghana, for providing a conducive environment for us to host this event here in this beautiful and historic city of Accra, and for honoring us with his presence today. Honorable Minister, we are delighted to have you here, sir. Your Excellency, the African Development Institute of the African Development Bank undertakes various capacity development programs and activities for the regional member countries of the bank towards the implementation of the bank group's capacity development strategy 2021 to 2025, the multidimensional action plan for the management of mitigation and debt distress risks in Africa, the Debt Action Plan 2021 to 2023, the Strategy for Economic Governance in Africa, SEGA, 2021 to 2025, and the Strategy for Addressing Fragility and Building Resilience in Africa, 2022 to 2026. These activities include executive training on public finance debt management under the Public Finance Management Academy for Africa, PFMA, and macroeconomic policy management under the Macroeconomic Policy Management Academy for Africa, MEMA. The Institute has also established specialized vehicles to drive not only technical level knowledge and capacity, but also policy level capacity for public finance and debt management. These include the Africa Debt Managers Initiative Network, a policy dialogue and learning platform for debt managers on the continent, as well as the Debt Management Forum for Africa, DIMFA, a policy dialogue and learning platform for ministers of finance and central bank governors. These initiatives include this Spotlight series that focused especially on transition states are running currently to address the urgent capacity development needs in public financial management and debt management in Africa. The PFMA has been conducting an 18-month structured PFM executive training covering the public financial management cycle and ecosystem since June 2022 across 6 modules, including domestic revenue mobilization, macro-fiscal modeling and forecasting, public budget and expenditure management, debt reporting, management and sustainability, and public-private partnerships for effective public financial management and transparency, accountability, and curbing corruption and illicit financial flows. In the first 18 months of establishing the PFMA, it provided training to 145 officials from 45 regional member countries of the bank, out of which 51 persons from 26 countries graduated and were certified as public finance management experts in December 2023 in a grand ceremony in Abuja, Nigeria. We have received very encouraging commendation and feedback from our trainees and graduates regarding how practical, relevant, and useful the trainings have been for the day-to-day work of addressing the PFM and debt challenges facing the respective countries. And there has been increasing demand for the training, in response to which we have over 500 officials nominated by 49 countries who are participating in the second cohort of the executive training, which commenced in June 2024. One of the key tenets of the capacity development activities of the bank is partnership. All these trainings were undertaken in collaboration with our institutional partners, including the IMF, International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the African Finance Corporation, the African Tax Administration Forum, the Collaborative African Budget Reform Initiative, the Open Governance Partnership, Open Ownership, PIFA Secretariat, African Economic Research Consortium, OECD Global Forum, West Africa Institute for Financial and Economic Management, Macroeconomic and Financial Management Institute for Eastern and Southern Africa, Commonwealth Secretariat, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, the International Budget Partnership, the Africa Legal Support Facility, and other regional and international institutions. In addition to the 18-month structured PFM executive training series, the PFM provides flexible, on-demand technical assistance, policy dialogue, and peer learning to regional member countries in public, financial, and debt management, as well as macroeconomic policy management. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, we are all aware of the magnitude and challenge of debt burden African countries are carrying, especially the low-income countries that constitute the bank's ADF-eligible countries, including Ghana, of course, to which most, if not all, the transition state belong. Gross government debt as a percent of GDP in ADF-eligible countries more than doubled in the last 10 years, from 37.8% in 2011 to a peak of 76.4% in 2020. The debt ratio has declined, reaching 62.3% in 2022, as growth in most economies has broadly recovered from the effects of COVID-19. Despite this decline, ADF countries have experienced heightened debt vulnerabilities exacerbated by an increased share of commercial debt in total public debt. Debt vulnerabilities have also been stoked by recent shocks such as COVID-19, rising episodes of climate events, the tightening of global financial conditions, and geopolitical conflicts across the globe. The average debt to GDP ratio of ADF countries is projected to stabilize at 63% in 2023-2024. But the short-term outlook is subject to a high degree of uncertainty underpinned by several vulnerabilities, including high debt service costs, weaker domestic currencies, and persistent refinancing risk. In response to these ominous challenges, the bank designed, among other initiatives, the project on strengthening the capacity of transition states for effective management and mitigation of debt distress risks to support capacity development in 22 transition states that are beneficiaries of the project, including Burundi, Burkina Faso, Central African Republic, Chad, Comoros, Democratic Republic of Congo, Djibouti, the Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea, Liberia, Madagascar, Mali, Mozambique, Niger, Sao Tome and Principe, Sierra Leone, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan, Togo, and Zimbabwe. In implementing this project, the African Development Institute, which is the implementing entity, has developed a number of capacity development initiatives, amongst which is the PFMA Spotlight on Public Debt Management in Transition State, which a dedicated debt management capacity development for this special category of countries in Africa. This maiden edition of the Spotlight on Transition State on addressing emerging public debt management capacity challenges in Africa's transition state and focused on providing best practice solutions to emerging capacity development challenges in public financial and debt management in the transition state by experts in this field. The objective of this second edition of Spotlight on Public Debt Management in Transition is to dive deeper into addressing the critical knowledge and capacity gap in loan negotiation and debt restructuring that most of our transition states are confronted with in the management of their sovereign debts for their economic stability and development. The topics that will be covered in this edition of the Spotlight series on strengthening capacity for loan negotiation and debt restructuring in Africa's transition state have been carefully curated to address the issues of debt restructuring as well as loan negotiation to make debt work for Africa. This topic includes sovereign debt restructuring experience in Africa under the G20 Common Framework, loan negotiation experience in Africa, what we need to know, the role of strong institutional, legal and regulatory framework and capacity for debt management, sovereign loan debt pricing instrument, assessing debt sustainability prior to new debt incurrence, why and how, loan negotiation documentation, building resilience in loan instruments, cash management and managing debt service and areas, sovereign debt restructuring, cause, processes, techniques, players, etc. Debt restructuring, case studies, accessing restructuring scenarios, restructuring and refinancing external debt, and restructuring domestic commercial debt, and recovering from debt distress and building back fiscal sustainability and resilience, to mention a few. I will also like to express my special appreciation to the African Legal Support Facility and their partner, Global Sovereign Advisory, for the sacrifice they have made to ensure that this specialized team of debt management was adequately covered and resourced. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, you will agree with me that the next 5 days will be most rewarding for the participants and their countries as they engage in this dialogue and learning session. We expect that at the end of these 5 days, the participants will have, amongst other things, appreciation of tailored best practice solutions to loan negotiation and debt restructuring, establish a network or community of practice on debt management in the transition state, receive resources for debt management in their countries, and be abreast of useful policy recommendations for the policymakers. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by reiterating the African Development Bank continued commitment to capacity development on the continent, especially in the transition state. This postlight series is just one of the many initiatives we are putting in place to support prudent public financial and debt management, inclusive growth, and sustainable development in Africa's transition countries. I thank you all for attending this dialogue and learning event. I also thank your government for releasing you to participate in this program. I believe that these 5 days of training will further strengthen your knowledge and skills in the day-to-day tools you require to deal with the challenges you face in debt management, transparency, and sustainability in your respective countries, especially in the area of loan negotiation and debt restructuring. I welcome you once again to this PFMA spotlight on public debt management in transition state, and wish you happy learning and fruitful discussion. Akwaba, and I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, my dear friend Bekali, for ably representing the Chief Economist and Vice President of the bank, and by giving us that very rousing, welcoming remarks. We have noted all those points you made with regard to what has been achieved through the Public Finance Management Academy for Africa. So now that we have been properly welcomed, I can now introduce myself. My name is Eric Ogunleye. I'm the director of the African Development Institute of the African Development Bank. It is indeed my pleasure to moderate this session, which is the opening session of our 5-day activity. Very intensive it's going to be, and I'm sure we're all ready for it. Okay, so moving on, this program, the funding of this initiative is made possible through funding that we got from a department that is called the Transition States Coordination Office in the African Development Bank. And so it's my pleasure to welcome the director of that department, Dr. Yero Balde, who will be represented by my very good friend, Mr. Riyad Ben Masood, to give some remarks. He will be joining us virtually, so please pay attention to the screen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants and honorable guests. It's really a privilege and honor to join you virtually today to deliver these opening remarks on behalf of Director Yero Baldi, the Director of the Transition States Coordination Office and the Administrator of the Transition Support Facility of the African Development Bank. Though we are not with you physically in Accra, we are really delighted to connect with you as we gather for this important second edition of the PFMA Spotlight on Public Debt Management in Transition States. Today's event marks a significant step toward our collective journey to build resilient public financial management system in Africa's transition states. As many of you know, the African Development Bank, through the targeted support window of its Transition States Coordination Office and its Transition Support Facility, has been actively implementing the project on strengthening the capacity of transition states for effective management and mitigation of debt distress risks. This Spotlight event is really an integral and crucial activity within the project results framework, aimed at equipping our countries with the skills and knowledge they need to confront the complex challenges of debt system vulnerability. The theme of the second edition, strengthening capacity for loan negotiation and debt restructuring in Africa transition states, is as timely as it is crucial. Across our continent, and especially in fragile context, many transition states face heightened debt risk exacerbated by limited capacity to negotiate loan on favorable terms and to manage the restructuring process effectively when debt distress arises. So these challenges threaten fiscal stability, undermine social progress, and put up the path to development. Through this week's policy dialogue, technical sessions, and peer learning, we really seek to build the institutional capacity necessary for proactive debt management, improved loan negotiation, and sound debt restructuring practices. By strengthening these capacity, we can transform debt from a driver of vulnerability into a catalyst for sustainable growth and resilience. The Transition States Coordination Office is really proud to support this initiative, implemented, of course, in collaboration with the African Development Institute, the African Legal Support Facility, and
Yeah.